Life can often feel like a chaotic journey, filled with distractions, desires, and emotional turmoil. It seems like we are constantly searching for something, a deeper sense of meaning, stability, or peace. But the question arises, where do we look for these things? In our modern world, many people turn outward for answers. They chase after material wealth, temporary pleasures, or the approval of others, believing that these will bring them the fulfillment they seek. Yet, despite their efforts, they often end up feeling more empty and disconnected. The things they thought would provide happiness and peace end up being fleeting, and they're left wondering if there's another way. This is where Stoicism, an ancient philosophy that has stood the test of time, offers a different path. Stoicism teaches us to look inward rather than outward for the peace and stability we crave. It encourages us to cultivate inner strength, clarity, and wisdom so that we can face life's challenges with resilience. Stoics believe that true peace comes not from external circumstances, but from how we respond to those circumstances. This philosophy calls us to be not swept away by the storms of our emotions, but to stand firm in the face of adversity, like a sturdy tree that bends but does not break in the wind. At its core, Stoicism isn't just a philosophy or a set of abstract ideas. It is a way of life. It is a practical guide for living with purpose, wisdom, and emotional resilience. Stoicism provides a framework for how to respond to the world around us, how to navigate the difficulties of life, and how to cultivate a sense of inner calm despite the chaos. This philosophy helps us transform how we view challenges. Instead of feeling defeated or overwhelmed by the obstacles that come our way, Stoicism teaches us to approach life's hardships with strength, dignity, and a sense of control over our own emotions. One of the most powerful lessons of Stoicism is the understanding that while we cannot control everything that happens to us, we can control how we respond to it. Life is unpredictable, and there will always be situations beyond our control. Illness, loss, failure, or the behavior of others. However, the Stoic teaches us that we have complete control over our reactions. When we adopt this mindset, we stop letting external circumstances dictate our emotional state. Instead, we learn to govern ourselves, our thoughts, and our actions, no matter what is happening in the world around us. This shift in perspective is liberating because it allows us to find peace, even in the midst of chaos. Another key teaching of Stoicism is the importance of focusing on what truly matters. So often we become distracted by things that ultimately have little lasting value: money, fame, social status, or the approval of others. These things are fleeting, and they often create more anxiety and dissatisfaction than true fulfillment. Stoics advise us to focus on what is truly within our control: our own character, our integrity, and our actions. By aligning our lives with our values, we can create a sense of purpose and fulfillment that doesn't depend on external circumstances. Number 1, we are not defined by our emotions. The Stoic philosophers, especially figures like Seneca, Marcus Aurelius, and Epictetus, recognized something deeply important about human nature. Emotions are powerful forces, but they are not who we truly are. At the heart of Stoic philosophy lies the belief that while emotions are natural, they should not control us. Rather than seeing ourselves as slaves to fleeting feelings, Stoicism invites us to step back and observe emotions with a sense of detachment. This practice can lead to greater emotional resilience and inner peace. Seneca, one of the leading Stoic thinkers, famously said, "We suffer more often in imagination than in reality." What he meant was that our emotional responses to situations often exaggerate the true magnitude of the events themselves. Think about it. How often do we feel intense fear, anger, or sadness in response to something that, upon reflection, was not as dire as we initially thought? Our emotions can magnify situations, making them seem worse than they really are. Stoicism teaches us that much of our suffering is self-imposed through our emotional reactions and our tendency to imagine worst-case scenarios. For Stoics, emotions like anger, fear, envy, and greed are temporary waves in the ocean of life. They are not permanent parts of who we are. They are transient, and when we can recognize this, we can better manage them. These emotions, though powerful, do not define our essence. They are like clouds that obscure the sun for a time. While the storm might feel overwhelming in the moment, the sky is clear again once it passes. Understanding this can help us avoid getting swept away by them, allowing us to maintain clarity and focus, even during turbulent times. One of the most important lessons in Stoicism is the concept of a detachment. However, this doesn't mean distancing ourselves from life or withdrawing from our feelings. It means recognizing that emotions are not the same as our true selves. Detachment in this context is the ability to observe an emotion without allowing it to dictate our behavior or thinking. Imagine sitting on the shore, watching the waves crash in front of you, but not allowing them to pull you under. The waves come and go, but you remain grounded. By detaching from our emotions in this way, we maintain control over how we respond to life's challenges. This form of detachment allows us to see emotions for what they are: temporary and passing experiences. Rather than suppressing our feelings, the Stoics encourage us to experience them fully, but with a sense of awareness. We can recognize that the fear we feel in a stressful situation will fade once the situation changes. Similarly, the anger we feel in the heat of the moment is often an overreaction to something that, in the grand scheme of things, doesn't warrant such intense emotion. By practicing mindfulness and stepping back, we can choose how to respond instead of reacting impulsively. At the core of this Stoic wisdom is the idea that our true self is not shaped by transient emotions. Number 2, control what you can, accept what you cannot. In a world full of uncertainty, one of the most powerful teachings we can embrace comes from the ancient philosophy of Stoicism. Its core message is deceptively simple: focus on what you can control and accept what you cannot. This wisdom, famously expressed by the Stoic philosopher Epictetus, offers a way to navigate the challenges of life with greater calm and resilience. By internalizing this idea, we shift from trying to control the uncontrollable to mastering our own responses, which is where true power lies. At the heart of this philosophy is the distinction between what is within our control and what is not. We cannot dictate the actions of other people, the events that unfold around us, or the unpredictable twists of fate. Yet there is one thing we always have the power to influence: ourselves. We have control over our thoughts, our attitudes, and how we choose to respond to the situations life presents. This realization is liberating because it shifts the focus away from external circumstances and brings it back to what we can shape: our own behavior and mindset. When we encounter difficulty or hardship, it's natural to want to change things that seem beyond our control. Whether it's a frustrating situation at work, a personal conflict, or a global crisis, it's easy to feel helpless and overwhelmed. However, Stoicism encourages us to redirect our energy. Rather than attempting the impossible task of controlling everything around us, we can choose how we respond. The key is not to resist or fight against the things that cannot be changed, but to acknowledge them and decide how we will meet them with grace and composure. This doesn't mean we should be passive or indifferent to the world around us. Acceptance is not the same as resignation. It's not about giving up on improving our lives or striving for meaningful goals. On the contrary, Stoicism encourages us to act with intention where we can, setting goals, making decisions, and taking steps that align with our values. But it also teaches us the importance of letting go of the need to control outcomes. We can do our best in every situation, but once we've done all we can, it's time to release our attachment to the results. The future, after all, is uncertain and uncontrollable. In fact, much of the stress we experience in life comes from trying to control the uncontrollable. We fixate on things that are out of our hands: how others think of us, whether we'll succeed in every endeavor, or whether circumstances will turn out as we hope. When things don't go as planned, we often feel frustrated or anxious. But by accepting that some things are simply beyond our influence, we free ourselves from this cycle of tension and disappointment. We can stop fighting against the flow of life and instead flow with it, embracing whatever comes with a sense of peace. This shift in mindset isn't always easy, especially when faced with adversity. In those moments, our emotions can cloud our judgment and make it difficult to maintain composure. Number 3. Desire is the root of suffering. In the annals of history, few figures are as revered for their wisdom and leadership as Marcus Aurelius, the Stoic emperor of Rome. He once remarked, "The things you think you need are often the very things that bring your downfall." This profound statement encapsulates a key teaching of Stoic philosophy. Our desires, though often seen as harmless or even necessary, can lead us into a cycle of suffering. We think we need more wealth, more recognition, more pleasure, but the very pursuit of these desires is what often pulls us away from the peace and contentment we seek. Human nature is defined by its desires. We are constantly striving for something, whether it's a new car, a promotion at work, or simply the approval of others. We believe that if we can just get these things, we'll be happy. But in reality, the satisfaction that comes from fulfilling these desires is fleeting. Once we attain what we thought we needed, a new desire quickly takes its place, setting off a perpetual cycle of wanting, attaining, and desiring again. The more we acquire, the more we feel the need for something else, and this endless chase leaves us feeling perpetually incomplete. The Stoics, ancient philosophers who believed in the power of reason and self-discipline, understood that this cycle of desire is at the heart of human suffering. According to them, our desires are like chains that bind us to external circumstances and distract us from finding true peace. Every time we cling to a desire, we risk losing our inner tranquility. This is because desires are inherently unstable. They are rooted in external things that are beyond our full control. When we base our happiness on them, we are always at the mercy of outside forces, whether it's the changing state of our health, the economy, or the actions of other people. What if there was another way to live, one that didn't depend on constantly wanting more or chasing after external validation? The Stoics believed there was. Their solution was a life of voluntary simplicity, a deliberate choice to free ourselves from unnecessary desires. This doesn't mean renouncing all ambitions or pleasures, but rather cultivating a mindset that prioritizes inner peace over external achievement. It involves stepping back from the constant noise of modern life and embracing the quiet clarity that comes from detaching ourselves from the pull of fleeting wants. This practice of simplicity is liberating. When we stop measuring our happiness by what we own or what we achieve, we begin to realize that happiness is something that comes from within. It's not something we can chase or possess, but something we can cultivate by mastering our inner world. Instead of constantly looking outside for fulfillment, we turn inward, focusing on what we can control, our own thoughts, reactions, and attitudes. This shift in perspective helps us break free from the endless pursuit of things that don't truly satisfy. By letting go of our desires, we create space for something more lasting: peace. When we stop obsessing over what we don't have or what we wish we could achieve, we find a quiet contentment that is independent of external circumstances. Number 4. Hardship is a teacher. Life, by its nature, is full of challenges. At times, these challenges can feel overwhelming, even impossible to navigate. In the face of adversity, it's easy to see hardship as an enemy, something that works against us, a force that pulls us down when we're already struggling. But what if we shifted our perspective? Instead of viewing hardship as something to avoid or fight against, what if we saw it as an opportunity for growth, a teacher that helps shape us into better, stronger versions of ourselves? The Stoic philosopher Marcus Aurelius once said, "The obstacle is the way." This profound statement encapsulates a powerful truth. The very difficulties that seem to block our path can, in fact, be the means by which we grow and evolve. It's a reminder that adversity, rather than being an enemy, can serve as a guide, teaching us lessons that we might not otherwise learn in times of comfort and ease. When we embrace this mindset, we stop viewing obstacles as things that simply hold us back and start seeing them as opportunities to practice and refine our virtues, such as patience, courage, and resilience. Consider the nature of struggle for a moment. It's often in our hardest moments that we discover our true strength. Think of an athlete pushing through physical exhaustion to finish a race, or a student battling through the stress of exams. These moments are difficult, yet they push us to tap into reserves of determination, focus, and discipline that we may not have known we had. When life challenges us, we are faced with a choice: to succumb to despair or to rise to the occasion. Every time we choose to rise, we build our inner strength, reinforcing our resilience for the future. This process of growth doesn't just apply to external challenges, but also to our internal struggles. When we face disappointment or failure, we often feel a deep sense of frustration or even shame. But failure, just like any other hardship, is a critical part of the journey. It teaches us what doesn't work, forces us to reassess our methods, and provides insight into how we can improve. Instead of avoiding failure, we should embrace it as part of the learning process. The most successful people in life are often those who have failed the most, but have learned from each failure and used it as fuel for their next attempt. In this way, hardship becomes a stepping stone, not a stumbling block. Moreover, hardship helps us develop resilience, a virtue that's essential for navigating the complexities of life. Resilience is not merely about enduring hardship, but about adapting and bouncing back stronger after each setback. Resilience is forged when we refuse to stay down after being knocked down. It's the ability to maintain hope, keep moving forward, and find creative solutions even in the darkest of times. Each time we recover from a difficult experience, we become more resilient, more prepared for whatever the future may hold. It's like strengthening a muscle. At first, the weight may be heavy, but over time we become stronger and more capable. Number 5. Death is inevitable. Live with that truth. The Stoic philosophers had a powerful, often unsettling view of life and death. They didn't shy away from the reality of death. Quite the opposite. They embraced it. One of the most famous Stoic reminders, memento mori, translates to, "Remember you must die." This wasn't meant to be a morbid or fearful thought. Instead, it was a call to live more consciously, more fully, by acknowledging the inevitability of death. For the Stoics, remembering that life is finite wasn't a source of dread, but a source of freedom. They understood that only by accepting death as an inevitable part of existence could we truly live with meaning and urgency. Living with the awareness of death shifts the way we approach each day. It turns every moment into an opportunity. When we know that time is limited, we start asking ourselves, what really matters? Rather than drifting through life or getting caught up in distractions, we begin to focus on what brings us joy, growth, and fulfillment. For the Stoics, the key to a good life was not accumulating wealth or status, but using our time wisely. Every day is a chance to make choices that align with our values and contribute to the person we want to become. This understanding also teaches us the importance of prioritization. We often waste time on things that don't truly matter. Endless distractions, petty arguments, or chasing things that won't bring lasting satisfaction. Death reminds us of the preciousness of time. If we were to live as if each moment could be our last, would we spend it on trivialities, or would we invest it in relationships, personal growth, or meaningful experiences? The Stoics believed that when we constantly remind ourselves of our mortality, we learn to stop taking time for granted and start focusing on the things that matter most. But the Stoic view of death isn't just about seizing the moment, it's about changing our relationship with uncertainty and loss. One of the most profound aspects of accepting death is realizing that it is beyond our control. We can't predict when or how our time will end. This acceptance can be liberating. Instead of fearing the unknown, we learn to accept life as it comes, with all its uncertainties. We stop worrying endlessly about the future because we realize that worrying is futile. What matters is how we use the time we have, not how much time we have. The future is out of our hands, but the present is ours to shape. The Stoics also recognize that thinking about death helps us live with greater clarity and focus. Many of us spend our lives distracted by what others think of us or by external pressures to conform. We get lost in the endless chase for approval, material possessions, or fleeting pleasures. But when we remember that death is always there, waiting for us, we stop wasting time on superficial pursuits. We begin to focus on the things that truly bring us peace, like being kind, being honest, and being present in the moment. Death forces us to ask ourselves, am I living the life I truly want to live, or am I living according to someone else's expectations? Number 6. Virtue is the only good. In a world constantly driven by the pursuit of external success, wealth, fame, and recognition, it's easy to believe that these are the keys to happiness and fulfillment. We are often told that the more we acquire, the more we achieve, the happier and more satisfied we will be. However, anyone who has experienced the rise and fall of fortunes knows that these external rewards are fleeting. Money, fame, and power are not constants. They come and go often as quickly as they arrive. They depend on the whims of circumstance and are vulnerable to time and change. This is where virtue stands apart as the only true good, offering something permanent, something that cannot be taken away no matter what happens. Virtue is the foundation of character. It represents qualities such as wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance. These are the traits that shape how we respond to life, how we treat others, and how we navigate the challenges that inevitably come our way. Unlike fame or fortune, virtue is something that resides within us. It is not determined by what we own or what others think of us, but by the choices we make every day, the values we live by, and the way we engage with the world. The beauty of virtue lies in its permanence. It's something we can always nurture and develop, regardless of external conditions or the events of our lives. One of the great lessons we can learn from the ancient philosopher Epictetus is that much of human suffering comes not from real problems, but from our imagined anxieties about them. He famously said, "Man is not worried by real problems so much as by his imagined anxieties about real problems." We often spend our time worrying about potential failures, the opinions of others, or the uncertain future, which causes unnecessary distress. In contrast, if we focus on cultivating virtue, we develop the ability to respond calmly and wisely to the challenges life throws our way, without being overwhelmed by fear or doubt. The idea of living virtuously is not about avoiding hardship or pretending that life is easy. In fact, it's quite the opposite. Living virtuously means facing life's difficulties head-on with the strength and resilience of character. Courage allows us to confront our fears and take action even when the odds seem stacked against us. Wisdom guides our decision-making, helping us to choose the right path and avoid unnecessary harm. Justice ensures we treat others fairly, with kindness and respect, while temperance teaches us the value of moderation, preventing us from falling into excess or self-destruction. Together, these virtues create a balanced, grounded approach to life that is far more powerful than any material success could ever offer. It's important to realize that virtue is within our control. Wealth, fame, and external achievements depend on factors outside of ourselves. Luck, other people's actions, and circumstances beyond our reach. They are, in a sense, fragile. But virtue, in contrast, is something we can cultivate and refine. No matter where we are in life or what we have, we can choose to develop the inner qualities that define our character. Number 7. We choose our response to life. Life is full of unexpected twists and turns. Every day we face situations that are beyond our control, sudden changes, misunderstandings, disappointments, and challenges. While we can't predict these events, one thing is certain: we always have a choice in how we respond to them. This idea is central to Stoic philosophy, which teaches that our power lies not in controlling the world around us, but in mastering our reactions to it. The Stoics understood that life is unpredictable, but our attitude toward these events is something we can shape. A single event, whether a minor inconvenience or a major crisis, can be interpreted in countless ways. For example, imagine someone cuts you off in traffic. You could feel angry, frustrated, and even lash out. Or you could choose to let it go, recognizing that the other person's actions have no power over your inner peace unless you allow it. The Stoic approach is to choose a response that fosters calm and clarity, rather than one that feeds negativity. One of the most powerful aspects of Stoicism is the way it teaches us to view difficult situations. When we face adversity, it's easy to feel like life is unfair or that we are victims of circumstance. For instance, When we experience personal criticism or an insult, our first instinct might be to take it personally, feel hurt, or respond defensively. But the Stoic perspective invites us to shift our focus. Instead of seeing an insult as an attack, the Stoic sees it as a chance to practice patience, understanding, and emotional restraint. It's not the insult itself that matters, but how we handle it. Rather than letting our emotions dictate our reaction, we can choose a measured, thoughtful response that reflects our values. This approach doesn't just apply to insults or criticism, it extends to the many forms of suffering we encounter in life. Whether it's facing health issues, losing a loved one, or dealing with setbacks in our career, the Stoic teaches us to shift our perspective. Instead of viewing suffering as something unjust or undeserved, we can see it as an opportunity for growth. Pain and hardship are part of the human experience, and while they are never easy, they can teach us valuable lessons about strength, resilience, and the impermanence of life. By accepting that suffering is inevitable, we can approach it with a sense of purpose, knowing that it offers us the chance to build character and become wiser. Epictetus, one of the most famous Stoic philosophers, expressed this beautifully when he said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." This simple yet profound statement encapsulates the Stoic belief that external events are largely outside of our control, but our reactions are entirely within our power. What happens to us in life is often out of our hands, but how we interpret and respond to these events is where we can make a choice. For the Stoic, it's the reaction that defines our peace of mind and our ability to maintain control in any situation. Choosing how we respond also means recognizing that we are not passive observers of our own lives. Number 8. Freedom is found in self-mastery. In a world constantly filled with external pressures, expectations, and distractions, many people spend their lives chasing after things they believe will bring them freedom, whether it's wealth, success, social approval, or material possessions. However, these external sources of freedom can often be fleeting and unfulfilling. The reality is, true freedom isn't found in controlling the world around us. Instead, it lies in mastering the one thing we can always control: ourselves. The journey toward this type of freedom is not about exerting power over others, but about cultivating the power within, mastering our thoughts, emotions, desires, and actions. To master oneself is to step beyond the limitations imposed by our own impulses and reactions. It is about understanding our inner world, our desires, fears, and weaknesses, and not allowing these forces to control our behavior. Often we think of freedom in terms of external circumstances, the ability to make choices without restraint, to do what we want when we want. But true freedom, as many ancient philosophers taught, lies in the ability to remain undisturbed and clear-headed no matter what life throws our way. When we are not slaves to our immediate desires, anxieties, or insecurities, we are free in a way that is deeper and more lasting than anything the external world can provide. The Stoics, one of the most influential schools of thought in ancient philosophy, spoke often about this kind of self-mastery. They argued that while we can't control the events around us, the people we meet, the challenges we face, or even the unpredictable changes in life, we do have control over how we respond to these circumstances. For the Stoics, the key to true freedom lay not in manipulating the world, but in mastering one's own mind. The ability to control our thoughts, to choose how we respond emotionally, and to act with wisdom and integrity, regardless of what is happening outside us, is where true freedom resides. Self-mastery is not about suppressing our emotions or desires, but rather about understanding and managing them. Emotions like anger, jealousy, or frustration can cloud our judgment, pushing us to act in ways that we later regret. Similarly, unchecked desires such as the craving for material goods or validation can lead us to make choices that don't serve our long-term happiness. By practicing self-awareness, we can start to recognize these impulses and choose more thoughtful, deliberate responses. This doesn't mean we stop feeling emotions or desiring things altogether. It means we learn not to let these forces take control of our actions. One of the most significant challenges in the pursuit of self-mastery is overcoming fear and weakness. Fear of failure, fear of rejection, or fear of change often holds us back from pursuing our goals or stepping out of our comfort zones. We may feel weak in the face of challenges, unsure of our abilities, or overwhelmed by obstacles. But self-mastery involves acknowledging these fears and weaknesses, facing them head-on, and deciding not to let them dictate our behavior. Number 9. Failure is only a step forward. Failure is a concept that many of us fear. We tend to view it as something negative, something to avoid at all costs. Yet if we stop and look more closely, we might discover that failure is actually an essential part of success. It's easy to become discouraged when things don't go as planned, but every time we fail, we are given an opportunity to learn, grow, and become better. It's in the moments of failure that we gain the insights and skills that set us up for future achievements. The first step in embracing failure is understanding that it's not the fall that defines us, but how we rise after it. Everyone experiences setbacks. No one is exempt. The question is, how do we respond when things go wrong? Do we give up, or do we find the strength to try again? True growth happens not when everything is easy and smooth, but when we face adversity and decide to press forward despite the obstacles. This is what builds resilience and perseverance, the qualities that are key to long-term success. The Stoics, the ancient philosophers who taught practical wisdom for daily life, had a different view of failure. For them, failure was not a catastrophe but an opportunity for reflection and growth. They didn't see mistakes as something to regret or avoid. Instead, they believed that failure could be a teacher if we were willing to learn from it. The Stoics understood that life is full of challenges and uncertainties, and it's how we handle those challenges that matters. They viewed each failure as a test of our character and willpower, not a sign that we should quit. To them, failure was a stepping stone toward wisdom, not an end in itself. This mindset is incredibly powerful. Imagine facing a setback, and instead of feeling defeated, you see it as a chance to develop your skills or try a different approach. When we fail, it's an invitation to analyze what went wrong, learn from the experience, and adjust our strategies. It's easy to let our emotions take over when things don't work out. Anger, frustration, disappointment. But if we can take a step back and look at the bigger picture, we realize that failure is part of the process. It's part of the journey to success. Every time we stumble, we gather more information, we grow, and we come closer to our goals. But failure is not just about intellectual growth. It's also about emotional growth. Learning to cope with failure builds emotional resilience. When we fail, we often feel vulnerable, embarrassed, or even ashamed. These feelings are natural, but they don't have to define us. Over time, as we face failure and learn to move past it, we build emotional strength. We learn not to be overwhelmed by setbacks or to let them determine our self-worth. This emotional growth is just as important as any external success because it shapes the way we respond to future challenges. Consider the journey of someone who has achieved great success in their life. If you look closely, you'll often find that their success didn't come easily. Number 10. The power of the present moment, embracing what we control. Seneca, one of the great Stoic philosophers, famously advised, "Don't waste time on what you don't control." This profound statement serves as a timeless reminder to focus on the present moment, the one thing in life that is within our grasp. The past is over, and the future is always uncertain. Yet many of us spend a great deal of our time trapped in thoughts of what we can no longer change, or what may never come to pass. Seneca's wisdom teaches us to let go of these distractions and focus on the now, where real life unfolds. The concept of focusing on the present is not new, but it's something many of us overlook in our day-to-day lives. How often do we find ourselves consumed by past mistakes, regrets, or the what-ifs? Or even worse, how often do we become anxious about future events that haven't happened yet and might never happen at all? These tendencies steal our attention from the present moment, the only time in which we can act, grow, or experience life fully. Our minds wander, trapped in memories or fantasies, and we miss out on the richness of what is happening right in front of us. What we often fail to realize is that our past is set in stone. No amount of regret, or reflection can alter what has already happened. Similarly, the future is unknown, an open road with infinite possibilities, but no guarantees. Our energy and thoughts are often spent in futile efforts to control either. However, the Stoics remind us that the only time we truly have is the present. It is here and now that we can make choices that define who we are and who we will become. Every decision we make today has a ripple effect, influencing not only our future, but also our sense of self. By focusing on the present moment, we unlock the power to shape our future. Every small action we take today, no matter how seemingly insignificant, contributes to the person we become. If we are mindful and intentional in our daily choices, how we respond to challenges, how we treat others, and how we live in accordance with our values, we begin to build a future that aligns with who we want to be. The present moment then becomes a foundation on which our future is built. This is not just about productivity or efficiency. It's about being fully alive in the moment. The more we live with intention and presence, the more we align ourselves with our highest values. We become less likely to fall into the trap of pursuing things that don't truly matter. Instead of chasing fleeting desires or getting caught in the chaos of daily life, we begin to make choices that reflect our deepest principles, choices that are aligned with our long-term goals and our vision of a fulfilling life. The present moment is where all of this begins. Living in the present also means accepting life as it is. So often we wish for different circumstances or struggle against what is happening right now. Whether it's frustration over a mistake we've made or fear of an unknown future, we resist reality instead of embracing it. The Stoics taught that we must not waste energy fighting things outside our control. Number 11. Let go of the need of approval. We often spend much of our lives seeking approval from others. Whether it's our parents, friends, co-workers, or even strangers, the desire for validation becomes a deep-seated part of our daily existence. From the clothes we wear to the choices we make, we mold our behavior in ways that we believe will gain us acceptance. It feels natural. After all, human beings are social creatures, and approval from others can help us feel connected, valued, and understood. However, while seeking validation might seem like a harmless part of social life, it can slowly chip away at our true sense of self, leaving us constantly chasing something outside ourselves for fulfillment. The problem with relying too heavily on external validation is that it takes away our personal power. When we base our self-worth on others' opinions, we surrender the ability to define ourselves. Every decision we make, every action we take becomes a reflection of what we think others expect of us, not what we genuinely want or believe. Instead of being guided by our own values, we end up constantly adjusting our behavior to meet the approval of others, hoping for a sense of belonging or recognition. This cycle can become exhausting, and more often than not, it leaves us feeling unfulfilled and disconnected from who we truly are. Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor and Stoic philosopher, captured the danger of living for others' approval in his famous writing, "To live for the sake of others is to lose yourself." This profound insight reminds us that if we live only to please others, we risk losing our own identity in the process. We start to chase after things that don't truly align with our inner desires or values. Whether it's pursuing a career path that others expect of us or shaping our personality to fit in, we gradually distance ourselves from the authentic version of who we are. Instead of embracing our uniqueness, we begin to shape ourselves into something we think will be accepted or admired, but not necessarily what will bring us peace or satisfaction. The antidote to this problem lies in discovering and embracing our own values. When we take the time to reflect on what truly matters to us, our beliefs, principles, and what we want to contribute to the world, we can begin to make choices from a place of self-awareness, not external influence. This means learning to listen to our inner voice rather than constantly seeking approval from others. Living according to our values doesn't just provide clarity, but it also helps us make decisions with confidence. We can move forward knowing that we are acting in alignment with what feels right, not just what others think is right. It's a practice of trusting ourselves and allowing our actions to reflect the person we truly are. When we start living in alignment with our values, we experience something powerful, the quiet dignity of self-respect. There's a deep sense of fulfillment that comes from doing what we know is right, regardless of whether or not anyone notices. Number 12. We are all part of a greater whole. In the quiet reflections of ancient philosophers, one message rings clear. We are not isolated beings. We are connected to something far larger than ourselves. The Stoic worldview, shared by thinkers like Marcus Aurelius, teaches that each individual is an integral part of a grand, interconnected web of life. The idea is simple but profound. What is good for the hive is good for the bee. This insight invites us to reconsider how we view our role in the world. We are not alone in our struggles, nor are we the sole authors of our successes. Instead, we are woven into the fabric of humanity, sharing common experiences, challenges, and aspirations. At the heart of Stoicism is the understanding that we cannot thrive in isolation. While modern society often promotes the idea of the self-made individual, Stoic thought pushes back against this notion. It reminds us that everything we do has an impact on the larger community. Just as a single thread contributes to the strength of a tapestry, every person's actions shape the world around them. Even when we feel like we're going through something alone, whether it's a personal crisis, a moment of doubt, or a triumph, we are actually part of a larger human experience. Our victories and defeats, joys and sorrows, are not uniquely ours, but shared with others in the collective journey of life. The Stoic philosophy teaches us that we are bound to others through common struggles and shared dreams. While our specific challenges may differ, the emotions that arise from them are universal. We all experience pain, fear, joy, and hope. No matter where we are in the world, these human feelings connect us. This shared emotional landscape is a reminder that we are not solitary beings, but rather members of a larger, ever-evolving community. When we understand this, it becomes easier to find compassion for others, even when their circumstances seem different from our own. Our capacity for empathy grows, and we can begin to relate to others not by their differences, but through our shared humanity. One of the key tenets of Stoic thought is that life has a greater purpose beyond individual achievement. Each person's role in the world, no matter how small it may seem, contributes to a larger cosmic order. The Stoics believed that by living in harmony with nature, we align ourselves with this grand design. Our purpose, therefore, is not to focus on self-centered goals, but to act in a way that benefits the greater good. It is through this perspective that we find fulfillment, not by pursuing fame or fortune, but by recognizing our place in a much larger narrative. Whether it's helping a neighbor, contributing to a cause, or simply acting with integrity, our actions ripple outwards, impacting the world in ways we may never fully comprehend. In the pursuit of virtue, Stoics find a unifying principle that connects all humans. Virtue, embodying qualities like wisdom, courage, justice, and moderation, transcends individual desires. These qualities are what make us truly human, and are the bedrock of a well-functioning society. Number 13. Live with integrity, even when no one is watching. Integrity lies at the heart of Stoic philosophy. It is the unwavering commitment to living in accordance with your values, no matter the circumstances or whether anyone is observing. For the Stoics, integrity is not a surface-level quality that you display to gain approval. It is a deep, internal commitment to being the best version of yourself at all times, even when there is no external reward or recognition. It's about living honestly, behaving with virtue, and remaining true to your character, regardless of whether the world is paying attention. Seneca, one of the foremost Stoic thinkers, said, "A good character is not formed in a week or a month. It is created little by little, day by day." This simple but powerful statement highlights the gradual process of building integrity. It's not an overnight achievement, nor is it something that can be faked in the moment. Integrity is cultivated over time, through countless decisions made in the quiet moments of our daily lives. It is a slow and steady process of aligning our actions with our values, and over time, this process transforms us into people who are steadfast in our beliefs and actions, no matter what happens around us. The Stoics believed that integrity is a quality that transcends the external world. It is not about doing the right thing only when it is easy or when there is an audience to applaud you. Integrity, in the Stoic sense, is about doing what is right when no one is looking, when there is no external reward, and when there is no fear of punishment. It's about making choices that reflect your true character without needing validation or praise from others. This is the essence of living with integrity. To do what is right, simply because it is the right thing to do, regardless of the circumstances. One of the most powerful aspects of living with integrity is the peace it brings. When you consistently act in accordance with your principles, you build a life free of the anxiety that often accompanies dishonesty or hypocrisy. You no longer have to worry about the consequences of being caught in a lie or being exposed for not living up to your own standards. When your actions align with your values, you are at peace with yourself, and that peace becomes a shield against the chaos of the outside world. You know that, no matter what happens, you are living authentically and true to your word. Living with integrity also requires a form of inner strength. It takes courage to stick to your values, especially when they are being challenged by others. The world often tempts us to take shortcuts, to compromise on our values for the sake of convenience, or to act in ways that align with the expectations of others. But the Stoics argue that the true measure of strength is the ability to act in alignment with our highest values, even when it is difficult, uncomfortable, or unpopular. This is where integrity becomes a muscle, one that, when exercised regularly, grows stronger and more resilient. Number 14. Seek wisdom above all else. In a world where information is constantly at our fingertips, knowledge has become a valuable commodity. However, the Stoics believed that knowledge alone wasn't enough. It was wisdom, how we apply what we know, that truly gives knowledge its power. For the Stoics, knowledge wasn't about impressing others or gaining accolades. It was about using it as a tool to live more effectively and to understand both ourselves and the world around us. Wisdom wasn't something you could boast about, but something you could practice every day, shaping how you interacted with the world. Socrates, one of the most influential philosophers in history, captured this idea perfectly when he said, "The only true wisdom is in knowing you know nothing." This statement might seem paradoxical at first, but it's one of the core principles of Stoic thought. What Socrates meant is that wisdom begins with humility, the recognition that no matter how much we know, there is always more to learn. Acknowledging our own ignorance is not a sign of weakness, but a sign of strength. It's the starting point of intellectual growth because it opens us up to new ideas, new perspectives, and new opportunities to improve ourselves. For the Stoics, this humble approach to wisdom wasn't just about intellectual curiosity, it was about transforming their lives. Knowledge without the tempering influence of wisdom could lead to arrogance, narrow-mindedness, and a false sense of superiority. The Stoics avoided this pitfall by keeping their minds open to learning. They understood that wisdom wasn't about collecting facts, but about cultivating virtues such as patience, courage, and self-discipline. It was the application of knowledge in real-life situations that brought true value. In seeking wisdom, the Stoics also became increasingly aware of their limitations. Recognizing the gaps in our understanding isn't something to fear. It's a powerful tool for growth. By embracing our ignorance, we become more adaptable, more receptive to change, and more willing to learn from our mistakes. In this way, wisdom wasn't just an intellectual exercise, but a continuous process of personal development. The more the Stoics learned, the more they realized how much there was to discover, and this constant awareness of their limitations kept them grounded and focused on the bigger picture. The Stoic approach to wisdom was practical too. It wasn't about contemplating abstract ideas in isolation, but about applying those ideas to everyday life. In the face of adversity, for instance, the Stoics didn't just rely on theoretical knowledge to guide them. They used wisdom to maintain emotional control, to act with integrity, and to stay true to their values. In this sense, wisdom helped them navigate life's challenges with grace. They weren't concerned with being right or winning arguments. They were focused on making decisions that aligned with their deeper understanding of what was truly important. The pursuit of wisdom also made the Stoics more resilient. Number 15. Embrace the unknown. Life is inherently uncertain. No matter how much we plan, organize, or prepare, the future remains beyond our control. This uncertainty is something we all face, yet many of us respond with fear, anxiety, or resistance. We naturally gravitate towards what we know, seeking comfort in the familiar. However, Stoic philosophy teaches us a different way to approach the unknown, not with fear, but with acceptance and courage. Stoics understand that uncertainty is a fundamental aspect of life, and instead of avoiding it, they embrace it as an essential part of the human experience. The Stoics' view of uncertainty isn't about passively waiting for things to unfold. Rather, it's about actively choosing how we respond to what's outside of our control. When we stop trying to predict or manage every outcome, we free ourselves from the stress of worrying about things that may never happen. Life, in its unpredictability, offers us the opportunity to practice resilience. Stoics remind us that we are not helpless in the face of the unknown. We always have the power to control our reactions, to choose how we engage with whatever comes our way. When you think about it, much of our anxiety comes from our resistance to uncertainty. We fear the things we can't predict, whether it's our health, our relationships, our work, or even the state of the world. The Stoic perspective is radically different. They encourage us to confront uncertainty directly, not to fight against it. By accepting that we cannot control the future, we shift our focus away from worry and back to what we can control: our mindset, our actions, and the way we interpret events. This simple shift has profound implications on our peace of mind. The unknown, instead of being something to fear, becomes something to navigate with clarity and confidence. This approach doesn't mean being passive or indifferent. In fact, it means being more engaged with the present moment. By accepting uncertainty, we release our need to overplan or micromanage every aspect of our lives. Instead of obsessing over possible outcomes, we direct our energy into what we can influence right now. This could mean focusing on our daily habits, improving our skills, or nurturing our relationships. The Stoic practice of focusing on what's within our control allows us to deal with the unknown not by trying to predict it, but by preparing ourselves to handle whatever comes our way. One of the key lessons the Stoics offer is the idea that challenges and change are not things to be feared, but embraced as opportunities for growth. Life is a series of unpredictable events, many of which may test our patience, our beliefs, or our resilience. The Stoic mindset teaches us to approach these challenges as opportunities to refine our character. By reframing uncertainty as a tool for self-improvement, we see it as a valuable part of our personal journey. Instead of seeing the unknown as an obstacle, we begin to recognize it as a teacher. Number 16. Simplicity is the key to freedom. In a world constantly pushing us to accumulate more possessions, more money, more status, it's easy to believe that happiness is tied to the things we own or the titles we hold. We are taught that success is measured by wealth and the outward symbols of achievement. However, Stoicism, an ancient philosophy, offers a radically different perspective. Instead of chasing after luxury and material wealth, Stoics advocate for living simply, focusing on what truly matters, and freeing ourselves from unnecessary desires. This approach doesn't just offer a way to live, it offers a path to true freedom. One of the core principles of Stoic philosophy is the idea that happiness doesn't come from having more things, but from desiring less. Epictetus, one of the greatest Stoic philosophers, famously said, "Wealth consists not in having great possessions, but in having few wants." This might sound counterintuitive at first, especially in a world where we're constantly told to strive for more, but what Epictetus meant is that the less we want, the less we are controlled by those desires. When we stop measuring our lives by what we possess, we open ourselves to a deeper, more enduring form of wealth: inner peace. The concept of having few wants doesn't mean living in poverty or abandoning all pleasures in life. It's about understanding that true happiness doesn't come from accumulating things that are fleeting or superficial. The more we accumulate, whether it's clothes, gadgets, or even experiences, the more we risk becoming attached to them. And as we become attached, we bind ourselves to the idea that our happiness depends on external circumstances. This attachment can slowly enslave us, making us feel like we need to work harder, strive more, or constantly upgrade our lifestyle in order to be happy. It's a cycle that never ends and one that only deepens our stress and anxiety. True freedom, according to the Stoics, is found in releasing ourselves from these attachments. When we live simply, we learn to rely less on material things for our sense of well-being. This doesn't mean rejecting the world or living in deprivation. Instead, it's about cultivating a mindset where our happiness isn't determined by what we own or what others think of us. It's about finding joy in the present moment, without constantly seeking the next thing that promises to bring us satisfaction. To understand the power of simplicity, consider how much of our time and energy is spent chasing after things we think we need. Whether it's a bigger house, a newer car, or a promotion at work, we are constantly pursuing external rewards. But in doing so, we often neglect the things that truly enrich our lives, such as deep relationships, personal growth, and inner peace. By simplifying our desires, we create space for the things that truly matter. This shift in focus leads to a more fulfilling life, one where we no longer feel the need to compete with others or measure our success by external standards. Number 17. We are defined by our actions, not our words. In life, words are easy. They flow from our lips without much effort. We tell people what we believe, what we aspire to, and what we value. But while words can be powerful, they are ultimately just sounds or symbols, empty until they are backed by action. As much as we might wish otherwise, it's not what we say that defines us, but what we do. The choices we make, the things we act on, and how we behave in the world are the true reflections of who we are. The Stoics, ancient philosophers known for their emphasis on virtue and self-control, recognized this truth long ago. It's our actions, not our words, that determine our character. Imagine that life is like a story, a narrative we're writing every day. In this story, every choice we make is a sentence, and every action is a paragraph that contributes to the overall plot. At first glance, it might seem like what we say could hold the most weight in shaping this story. After all, our words can sound impressive, even convincing, but words alone don't have the power to create lasting impact. The real weight of our story comes from the actions we take, the risks we embrace, and the values we put into practice. It's these actions, not the words we speak, that leave a lasting impression on others and ourselves. The Stoic philosophers understood that words can often be misleading. Anyone can talk a good game. It's easy to promise great things or declare lofty ideals, but unless we back up those words with concrete actions, they remain mere talk. True character doesn't come from what we claim to be or what we say in the heat of the moment. Instead, it comes from how we behave when faced with challenges, temptations, or difficult circumstances. When life gets tough, when our patience is tested or our integrity questioned, it's in these moments that our actions reveal who we truly are. Words may fail us, but our actions will always tell the truth. Look at the people you admire most. Think about the figures who have made the greatest impact in the world, whether in history, in your personal life, or in your community. Do you admire them for their speeches, their promises, or their words? Likely not. What you respect most about them are the things they've done, the risks they've taken, the sacrifices they've made, the integrity they've shown. Their actions have proven their values. It's their deeds, not their words, that have built their legacy and left a meaningful mark on the world. And in the same way, we each have the power to build our own legacy, not through what we say, but through what we do. But it's important to recognize that actions don't have to be grand or world-changing to count. Often it's the small, everyday actions that define us the most. It's in the moments when no one is looking, when it would be so easy to take the shortcut or give in to temptation, that our true character is revealed. For instance, how do we treat people when they have no power over us? How do we respond when we make a mistake or when we face an unexpected obstacle? Stoicism, an ancient philosophy that originated in Greece, is filled with timeless truths that continue to resonate with people today. At its core, Stoicism is about mastering oneself, understanding the world, and living in harmony with both. The teachings are deceptively simple, yet incredibly profound. They show us how to handle life's ups and downs with grace and resilience. But while these principles sound easy in theory, living them day by day is a true challenge. The Stoic path is not for the faint of heart, but for those who are willing to confront life's struggles head-on. There is immense power in it. The first and perhaps most fundamental lesson of Stoicism is the idea that we can control only one thing: our own mind. We cannot control the people around us, the situations we find ourselves in, or the events that happen in the world. External circumstances, good or bad, are beyond our influence. However, we have complete authority over our thoughts, our actions, and our responses. This is the starting point for Stoicism, acknowledging that what happens to us is not as important as how we choose to react. By focusing on controlling our own behavior, we free ourselves from the anxiety that arises when we try to control things that are outside our power. Next, Stoicism teaches the importance of self-control, the ability to regulate our desires and impulses. In a world filled with distractions and temptations, this is a particularly difficult lesson. The Stoic believes that true freedom comes from within, from having the discipline to choose what's best for us in the long run, rather than indulging in short-term pleasures. Self-control doesn't mean denying yourself enjoyment or pleasure, but it involves resisting the urge to overindulge, especially when it leads to negative consequences. Through practice, we learn to become less dependent on external things for happiness, and instead we cultivate a sense of inner peace that isn't easily disturbed. Along with self-control, another central tenet of Stoicism is fortitude, or strength of character. Life is full of challenges, and we cannot avoid them. Sickness, loss, failure, and disappointment are part of the human experience. The Stoics believe that it is not the challenges we face, but how we face them that defines us. Fortitude allows us to remain steadfast in the face of adversity. It teaches us to endure hardship with courage, knowing that each challenge offers an opportunity to grow stronger. A person with fortitude does not crumble under pressure but stands tall, even in the most difficult situations. This resilience, built over time, enables us to weather storms without losing our sense of purpose or inner calm. Equally important to fortitude is the pursuit of wisdom. Wisdom, according to Stoic philosophy, is the ability to make sound judgments and take appropriate actions. It's not simply about acquiring knowledge, but about using that knowledge to live better, more virtuous lives. Wisdom allows us to see the world as it truly is, not as we wish it to be. It helps us understand the nature of things, both the good and the bad, and teaches us to accept life's inevitable uncertainties.